Hey everybody, it's Rob. Welcome to Camping in the Woods. I want to show you today my 4 favorite knots that I use for setting up a camp like the one you see behind me. The knots that I use for tying out tarps, for securing things, for holding things in place. These are 4 easy, simple knots that I use all the time. Now, we know there's lots of knots in the world out there to be tied, and a lot of them have different uses, but the 4 that I use the most, I got to thinking about this a couple of days ago. I was like, I seem like I tie the same knot all the time and rarely use any of the other ones that I know. So here's the 4 I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a clove hitch. I'm going to show you a taut line hitch. I'm going to show you a half hitch, and I'm going to show you a bowline. Or bowline is actually probably the right way to say it. If somebody said bowline to me a couple of days ago and it stuck in my head. So half hitch, taut line hitch, clove hitch, and bowline. All right, let's go. Okay, the first knot I'm going to show you is just a half hitch. A half hitch is basically, if we were going to do it, we're going to come around a rope and we're going to go around it one time, just like that. And that is a half hitch right there. That's all that is. If you put 2 half hitches together, you just come around through like that, and then you've got something like that. Now, oddly enough, that makes a clove hitch. So, with a half hitch in place, we're going to undo it. We're going to come back. Now, we're going to tie a clove hitch around this, and you'll see how it starts with a half hitch, just like that. Except for a clove hitch, we're going to cross over the piece, the long piece. We're going to come up around and we're going to come up through it again. And now we got a couple of back-to-back half hitches that cross over each other and they form a clove hitch. A clove hitch will hang on. I could climb off the side of a cliff with this. This knot will pull itself tight and will not let go. I mean, unless you've got just some weird kind of rope. I guess I have seen some kind of little poly nylon, flimsy, goopy ropes that are real slick. You know, really small ones that don't hold as well as a clove hitch, but I rarely ever have had one come undone. Now, the good thing about any knot is that it's easy to tie, and no matter how hard you pull on it, I shook water off on myself. It rained a little while ago. No matter how hard you pull on it, how hard you tighten it, it's not hard to get undone. A couple of twists, a couple of pulls, and there it is. Just that easy. All right. So now we're going to tie another knot that also utilizes half hitches, and that's a taut line hitch. Let me make sure I got enough room here. I may need to back us up just a little bit so we can see what we're doing. A taut line hitch is used to take up slack in a rope. For instance, in that tarp over there that you see that I've got tied, up on the top of it, in most of those grommets, I've got a bowline tied, which I'll show you in a minute. Then where it goes down to a stake, I've got a taut line hitch so that I can take up the slack when the rope stretches or when wind moves a little bit. I can take up the slack like I'm going to show you here in just a second and get that rope snugged up again or get it taut or tight again. And so that's what we're going to use this hitch for right now. So let's look back at what we're doing here and what we do for tying a taut line hitch. We're going to come around whatever we're going to do. If we were doing, and it could be anything, it doesn't have to be a tent stake. That's just our example right now. I'd go around my tent stake. I keep this piece kind of snug, and then I hold both of them here, and then I come around, make a loop where it crosses over, and then I go through it one time, and then 2 times. And then you can see how that wraps around there. Then I come up here above it, back up the other end of it, and make another one that goes through there, and it locks down and holds. Now, again, that thing holds like crazy, but yet, if I want to make it longer, all I got to do is pull it like that, and it still holds. All right? That's how easy that is. Nothing to it. We're going to do it again, which you can go back and replay the video again easily enough, but we'll do it one more time just so you can see how that works. All right, we got the short piece and the long piece. I'm going to come around over the top or over the bottom. You can do it either way, it doesn't matter. Either way, you're just making your loops around the piece that you came from. 2 loops like that, and then one more up above it, come back up above everything, and it's sprinkling. There's not, the sun's shining on me. You know what, might just be the wind dropping water on me. There we go, and like that. And so that's what you've got, and it moves just as easy as it can be, but because of the way it locks itself, it won't go that way. So we can make it bigger and tighten it up, or we can make it down smaller and closer like that. And the same thing, a knot that's easy to untie is a good knot if it holds anyway. So we'll undo that guy right there. Now, just for fun, I'm going to show you one more. This is going to be one of the bonus knots we're going to show you. I mentioned we're going to show some bonus knots. So, going to be a taut line hitch. But what we're going to do, need a little bit more slack there. What we're going to do is we're going to pretend like we've got a cord that doesn't grab as good. Some cords, some ropes, some strings don't hold as well as others. So we're going to do our two like this, and then we're going to come up, and then we're going to do those two half hitches that I showed you earlier. We're going to come here, and we're going to do another one like that, and then like that. And I'm pretty sure there's some fancy name for this, you know, that I learned when I was a kid. And so now basically we've just done our two half hitches, which make the clove hitch right there, along with the two half hitches here that didn't make a clove hitch. And what that does is it provides an extra measure of holding power for this rope right here. So whereas that one, the simple form of it, would hold really well, this one holds really, really well. So there we go. That's that one. Now, okay. Now, the next knot we're going to tie is a bowline. And a bowline has all kinds of uses. A bowline is used to make like a permanent loop in a rope that won't slip, and it's not adjustable, is the deal with that. Now we're going to tie it around this tree just to make it easier to hold and just to make it easier to illustrate. But you'll notice we've got our free end and what's called the standing end. That means the end that's going to do all the work later on. To make a bowline, we take our standing end and we make a loop in it. Now, you see the loop is basically, it's kind of like a half hitch, it's just not hitched around anything. But what we're going to do to make this work is we're going to come in through this loop right here with our free end, and we're going to come in from the same side that our standing end is hanging out on. And I'll show you why. We're going to go in like this, we're going to go around it, and then we're going to come right back out it like that. So now what you've got is your half hitches around these two pieces, but when you snug up that half hitch, then it holds that part. And that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look almost like a shoelace knot with something sticking through there. It's not a shoelace knot by any means. Now again, this is one of those knots we can pull as hard as we want to. It's going to draw up tighter, and it's not going to slip and let go. But then when we get ready to untie it, we just bend this piece back like that, and that lets this dude loose, and the whole thing falls apart. Just like that, all right? This time we'll do it again, except we won't even put it around the tree limb. We won't put it around the tree limb. We'll form up our loop. And again, it doesn't really matter which way the loop goes, as long as you remember to go in from the same side that this is on. If you go from the same side where your loop comes in, it won't ever hold right. It has to bind this string right here. So we're going to come in. I almost did it wrong. We're going to come in like this. We're going to come around this guy, and we're going to run it back up through here, and it's going to lock itself in place, and it's going to hold good and snug. Now with a loop like this, if you had to lift somebody out of a canyon or whatever, this is the kind of a knot you'd probably want to slip down so they could step through and sit in this and hang on to it and lift them out, that kind of thing. But that is a bowline right there, and it holds really, really well. So there we go. Now we're going to move on a little bit here, and I'm going to show you a couple other little knots, just basically some off plays or play-offs or spin-offs or whatever of some of the stuff we've already learned. So here we go. One of the things I was going to show you that you can do with half hitches we're going to look at the end of that tarp here, and we're going to see how it runs, how I've got the string going from the grommet down the cable that's holding it. But I don't want that tarp to pull back towards the center. I want it to be held out good and snug on both ends. And sometimes I don't have enough string or line to make it all the way to the next tie point, but what I can do is I can just do a series of half hitches, all of which will continue to grab. Now, I can do one half hitch like this, and it's got a little bit of holding power, but it's going to slip, as you can see. So, as I go along, what I do is I add another half hitch behind it, but not right up next to it. I leave a little spacing in it. And then I'll go add another one beyond that. And if I've got enough line left over, which I kind of do, I'll add another one beyond that. Now, if you noticed on the cable up there where that tarp was tied on, I've got about 6 or 7 of them all in a line. And this dude right here, if this one slips, this one's going to take up a little slack. And if this one slips a little, that's going to take up its slack, and so on and so forth. I have lifted very, very heavy pieces of steel and other things up tall places just simply using some half hitches like that, because once they get under tension, they don't let go very good. One of those deals that the harder you pull it, the tighter it holds. So, if there's a name for this one, I don't have a clue what it is. It's just a series of half hitches that are spread apart. One of the things that you want to spread them apart for is if you put them all too close together, sometimes for whatever reason they don't hold as well as when they're spread out. I can't say why, but they tend to do that. Anyway, that's one that might serve you some good sometime. Okay, the next bonus knot I wanted to show you is a pretty simple knot, and you already know this one, but I'm going to explain why I'm showing it to you and telling you what it is. This is just an overhand knot. This is just the plain simple knot that you tie in a string or a rope or something like that. If you need to, in this case, before I had melted the ends of this rope together, I had tied that in there to keep it from coming completely unraveled. Now, these knots are easy to tie and they're pretty good, but the problem is once they've been in place for a while, they can be really, really hard to get undone. I can feel some movement in this one, and so I feel like I could probably get it undone. But a better one to use if you think you want to get it undone, overhand knot is basically just a round, make the loop, come through, pull it up. That's an overhand knot. But a better knot to use if you want to get it undone is a figure 8 knot. A figure 8 knot, you start like you're going to tie an overhand knot, but instead of going through there now, you want to go ahead and go through one more time so you've made a full circle around the rope. Then you come up through, and it makes what looks kind of like a figure 8. Now, these knots are really good for when you get them snugged up tight, get them holding good. They work really good for a stop point on a rope, but they're also a lot easier to get undone than an overhand knot is. Now, you can get these so tight that you just about can't get them undone either, but it's rare that I get one that's so tight I can't get it undone. But like I say, it can happen. Now, another good thing for the figure 8 knot is if you want to make a loop like we did with the Bowline before, just a loop on the end of a rope that you can do different things with, the figure 8 knot is going to turn out to be your friend. You figure out wherever you want your loop, whether it's the middle of the rope or one end of the rope. We're going to make a loop about this size, and we're going to use this piece just like it's one piece, and we're going to tie our figure 8 with it. So we're going to come around, and instead of just coming up through the first time and making an overhand knot, even though we're using 2 ropes now, we're going to come around and we're going to go all the way around again. Then we're going to come up through and we're going to make our figure 8 like that. I use this a lot. Yeah, some of you, there's a big old jake brake. Some of you probably already know that I do a lot of work that's up high in the air. I do work on top of grain elevators and grain silos and just tall places like that. And as I've gotten older, I've decided it's a good idea to clip onto a safety harness of some sort. So when I've got my harness on and I want to tie my rope off somewhere and have a knot that I'm not going to worry about letting go, but that I can still get undone later after I put all 200 plus pounds of meat on that knot, this is the one I use. So bonus knot number 4 is a figure 8 knot loop. I don't know if there's a name for it. I just made that up as I went along there. But That dude right there will hold. I mean, that dude right there will hold. If I was worried about it and I had a little extra rope, I might put a couple more half hitches in it just for the heck of it. I can only think of one time I ever did that because it was a really precarious spot, and I wasn't worried about my figure 8 slipping, but I figured, what the heck, if nothing else, it got the extra slack out of the way and I didn't have to worry about getting tangled up. So the whole thing comes apart real easy, undone quick, push it together, breaks the tension, apart it comes, back to good. Okay, so I hope those knots help you out. I hope that they provide you some easier ways to tie some things and not have to worry about getting them undone. I know a lot of guys that tie knots and strings and rope and then just have to cut the strings and ropes. I hate cutting strings and ropes because every time you cut them, they're shorter, or sometimes they're so short you can't even use them again. I don't like doing that. I like being able to untie stuff. And I like having knots that I can throw together easy, reliably, and know what job that they're going to be used the most for. So I hope you use them. I hope you like them. If you've got other knots you like, if you've got other ways you use knots or things like that, I'd love to hear about them. Tell me in the comments below and let me know what your favorite knot is. You know, that's actually a cool thing to know. I've learned some neat stuff from other people, knots that I didn't know about and things like that. I'd love to know what you know. That's one of the great things about this. We can share knowledge with each other and we can all learn from each other. So have a good time out in the woods. Be safe, be careful. Don't throw your trash down. Oh my gosh, I hate when people leave a camp and there's trash laying everywhere. It just makes all the rest of us look bad. But in the meantime, go have some fun and look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.